What's up, YouTubers? I'm back again. Two videos in one night. I know. How does he do it? Anyway, USA Today put out this anti-Semitism is rising, and critics say influencers from the left and the right are largely to blame, which is already bullshit. Like, the only kind of left-wing anti-Semitism that exists out there are people, you know, posting Zog the Dragon memes, you know what I mean? It's like not really serious at all. There's like left wing anti Semitism is a oxymoron because you're not a left winger if you're anti Semitic already. So this is like, thanks for fucking muddying the waters, USA Today, and disinforming your audience about how politics actually works. But let's continue with this bullshit anyway, I guess. Ah, thank God, like 4.4K views. Nobody gave a shit about this. No wonder this channel gets 1,000 views a video with 8 mil subs. Holy moly, that was such horrible, entirely biased journalism. Yeah, and I saw bits of this earlier today. Did not see the beginning.
The conflicts in the Middle East are changing the way that young Americans look at Israel. But the political debate is also leaving the door open for extremist views to enter the mainstream, from the far right.
I think that Jews are causing a disproportionate amount of problems in the United States.
To the far left.
You f***ing baying pig! You f***ing bloodthirsty, violent pig dog!
I was watching Hassan's stream when he said this. And just for context, pig dog is not an anti-Semitic dog whistle. As a Jew, I've never heard it in my life. I've never even heard that term until like Hassan said it, or like maybe I heard some hammer sickle Twitter guy say it. Because it's really just a term used by communists to talk about capitalist pig dog, you know? That kind of thing. So I tried to put on my best Russian accent there, but it doesn't work. Anyway.
Anti-Semitism is resurging around the world, and it's reaching dangerous levels.
2025 was one of the most violent periods we've seen in memory. Over 200 acts of violence committed against Jewish people.
I'm Will Carlos, and I've made it my mission to examine how extreme...
Oh, God. And yeah, fucking the ADL, not a credible organization. Basically just a front for Israeli propaganda to smear left-wing critics of Israel. And even Wikipedia recognized that, which is why the ADL is no longer a source on any Wikipedia page, I'm pretty sure. So, recognize that, you know.
Extremist movements are gradually becoming mainstream in America. This is extremely normal. I'm here in Tampa, Florida, at a campaign rally for James Fishback. He's a long shot candidate.
Florida is gotta be such a hellhole to live in if you're a left winger. Right. Now Ron DeSantis also declared CARE a terrorist organization by the Florida government. You know, it's just like these people are living in the dog days, you know, their brains are literally getting melted by the sun and humidity, I guess. And I guess, you know, that's what this produces. A neo-Nazi and
for governor on the Republican ticket. But he's attracted many young men with far-right beliefs over a specific...
for Like, still mostly white boys, but like, goddamn, bro. What does Florida do to the minority population to make them come out to a James Fishback rally? Hopefully, these are journalists or something, you know.
Specific issue: Israel.
Look, you can love Israel, you can hate Israel, but last time I checked, this is the United States of America. I have a crazy
So it seems like he's wishy-washy on Israel. Guess he's not a real one.
radical. Maybe it makes me an
I was just trying to say that to piss off whatever fucking neo-Nazi might be tuning in for this, you know.
extremist, but here's a very simple statement.
And yeah, you whatever.
No American should ever die for Israel.
The main thing is the way he goes and stands up for America against Israel.
That's not even. I like how they're framing that as if that's anti-Semitic, as if the New York Times didn't report that Israel dragged us into this Iran war that's killed, what, 13, 14 Americans by the official count. Probably injured hundreds, if not killed hundreds. Servicemen, right? I'm pretty sure they're still hiding the numbers, you know?
He's the only politician doing that.
I feel like we're not allowed to criticize them at all, and then any criticism is just immediately shut down as anti-Semitism.
I think that the average American is fed up. They are fed up as they were 5 or 6 years ago when folks in the Democrat Party would criticize any opinion contrary to DEI or affirmative action as racist. And now, if you criticize Netanyahu, if you criticize the fact that we're sending $5 billion.
Yeah, because it was racist. Dumbass. Sorry you don't understand what racism is, like. But I mean, he is a racist. Probably privately, you know, accepts the label. But since he's running for public office. What is that on his pin? Is that a yellow? What is that pin? A yellow flag?
There, we're spending $200 billion per the Pentagon's request on this war that, in the words of Secretary of State Marco Rubio, says is because of Israel's preemptive attack. That is deemed as anti-Semitic.
But the popularity of Fishback's attacks on Israel isn't just specific to his belief in the country's financial and military dependence on the United States. He's also gained a lot of fans.
Dude, what is Florida doing to the brains of people down there? I guess because most American media is so shit, and the stuff that people get fed whenever they open their feeds is like, you know, mainstream slop that, you know, by now most Americans understand is lying to them on some level. You get guys like this popping up, and then I don't know, minorities will hear that and be like, oh wow, I guess I agree with it. Even though he's a racist anti-Semite. What a cursed country.
In the far-right Gen Z group known as...
I guess this is like, I don't know enough about French politics, but like the Marie Le Pen supporters, like she apparently has a pretty large black constituency in France. Anyway.
As groypers for his use of phrases and rhetoric that have been labeled deeply anti-Semitic.
If you wanted to set up our kids for failure, you would feed them the absolute goy slop in our cafeteria.
Goy slop is an anti-Semitic internet slang term combining goy, a Hebrew Yiddish term for a non-Jew, and slop, meaning low-quality food, originating around...
Oh yeah, I guess the ACP guys are also, you know, they love using terms like this, like, I name names like Rathbone. That dude's weird. I don't know. Other guys, I guess, are probably on that. I don't care enough about looking into their shit. But I guess that's another example of left-wing anti-Semitism if you consider the ACP to be left-wing instead of a bunch of like, identitarian shitheads for the most part.
Around 2016 on 4chan, it's used to describe processed, unhealthy food or low-quality media, alleging a conspiracy that Jewish elites are promoting these products to make non-Jewish people unhealthy and submissive.
Well, I meant to be funny.
Okay, but
I meant to be funny.
Why was
in
it funny?
the same way.
Bruh. And the second, because he's a fucking, grifter, right-wing grifter that is basically just running for his own career and make some money. The second he's pushed on this, he won't even fucking defend it. Like all right-wingers are when they feel like, hey, my position is being threatened by this line of questioning, I guess I gotta back off. Like if this interviewer came at me asking me about I don't know, me posting slammer memes, I'd be like, yeah, I'm defending that because first off, have you seen how this government behaves as if like, the Democratic establishment behaves like Israel firsters. Republicans behave like Israel firsters. So I feel like deploying the term, even though deploying the term Zog, even it's just, even though it comes from David Duke and the KKK, is like, yeah, man. Also, there's the Epstein files and Israel's decades-long period of influence peddling operations in the U.S. Sending people from like Unit 8200 into companies like Google, Marissa Straight, starting PragerU. She's a Unit 8200 alumni. Facebook, all these major tech companies have Unit 8200 alumni working there. And it's not even like a secret program or anything. Yeah. Israel does massive influence peddling operations as a result of the decades-long alliance with the U.S. So, even though that term comes from the KKK, it's not inaccurate.
Way growing up, my mother, who was born in South America, would call what my dad would make gringo slop sometimes as a kid. So, I mean, was that a conspiracy against every single Hispanic person in the United States? Of course not.
Well, no, but goy slop, as far as I
never heard the term gringo slop. I grew up in Texas, surrounded by Hispanic people. That's probably bullshit.
I understand it. The idea is that this is food that is being foisted on non-Jews by a sort of Jewish cabal to weaken them in some way, right?
Not a Jewish cabal. It's more so a elite capitalist cabal. Friends of Jeffrey Epstein cabal, that kind of thing. And there are white supremacists in it. There's Gulf state leadership in it. There, all kinds of international bourgeois capitalist elites. And then they use the American government sort of like an international Pinkerton force to put down any potential threats to their control over the global economy, That's what we're actually talking about if you live in reality, but, because James Fishback is a dumb grifter who's just using anti-Semitism to boost his profile. He's not going to talk about any of that, and he's going to back off anyway.
I mean, that's the conspiracy. That's what you were tipping your hat to.
I don't know that that conspiracy reflects what I actually spoke about, which is our public school cafeterias are feeding kids absolute garbage with high fructose corn syrup, high sodium. Well, that's not particularly.
Oh, what the hell happened?
Particularly
hey,
punchy
I
or
got
funny.
a viewer. Sick.
And so I'm going to do things that are funny, that are punchy. I wish we would spend less time talking about word choice and more time talking about the issue that we have an obesity crisis in my state. We have a hunger crisis in my state.
I agree with you, but respectfully, I think you made that the conversation when you used that term.
Perhaps.
Okay, fair enough.
Perhaps, but I don't regret the use of that term whatsoever. What I think we have to do is spend less time trying to police language and more time actually getting to the issues.
Anti-Semitism has, of course, been around for centuries, but it's seeing a resurgence, particularly in America, around the same time that the Israeli government has invaded and attacked Gaza in response to the Hamas-led terrorist attacks against Israel on October 7th, 2023. That conflict has been deeply unpopular among Americans, many of whom see Israel...
One Piece flag, hell yeah. I wonder if any fans of One Piece see this.
That conflict...
And then connect the dots, you know? Anyway.
Has been deeply unpopular among Americans, many of whom see Israel as...
Like, apolitical fans of One Piece, if they ever see, like, One Piece flags at, like, socialist protests or anti-imperialist protests in the U.S., they're, like, connecting, they're like, hey, I like that show. What does that mean? You know. Does this mean something about how it functions? Maybe.
Having taken a disproportionately violent response. But here's the thing. While a lot of Americans blame the current Israeli government, the backlash has also come against Jews in general, across the globe, and especially here in the US. And this scapegoating, blaming Jews at large for the actions of the Israeli government, has been seized upon by internet-savvy influencers with extreme views.
I'm just going to come out and say it. Like, I think that Jews are causing a disproportionate amount of problems.
Dan Bilzerian's just a rich shithead that I don't even know how he affords his lifestyle unless he's like buy, borrow, dying, you know what I mean? He just posts himself with like, you know, living the most hedonistic lifestyle imaginable. That's how he got famous, basically.
Problems in the United States.
Jews are money changers, bullshit artists, psychopaths, charlatans, grifters, manipulators.
That's also led to outward minimization or even full denial of the Holocaust, one of the most tragic events in human history, which led to the deaths of more than 6 million Jews.
Ever since the Holocaust, the alleged Holocaust of roughly 6 million Jews, give or take some millions.
There's so many problems with it, and to exterminate that many people in that period of time, simply put, there weren't enough ovens.
Let's talk about the Holocaust. Do you believe the Holocaust happened?
Do I believe that the German government killed innocent Jews? Yes.
Do you believe that...
These motherfuckers can't even... You know, because they're all fucking neo-Nazis that can't accept the conclusion of their worldview ends in exterminationist policies and death and violence galore. That's bad. You know, this is how they cope with that. Being like, oh, do I believe Germany killed a lot of Jews? Yeah. Ugh. This guy, I mean, at least that's what I learned from Rising Out of Hatred by Eli Slaslow. The story about Derek Black, the former heir to the KKK.
I mean, the number that's always cited is 6 million people. Do you believe 6 million people died in the Holocaust?
So, I tell you the truth, I've spent more of my time thinking about the history of Florida, the history of our state, how we can make that great. I haven't spent a lot of time studying Holocaust history. I know that time and again in U.S. history, we've been told one thing only to have it debunked later. What I can
Like what? What got debunked about the Holocaust that this guy's talking about? Fucking nothing, pretty much. Like, what do you mean, dude? Maybe bring a source up.
unequivocally tell you is that the genocide of Jews by the German government was a tragedy. It should never happen again. I'm not sure why.
Okay, so he recognizes it is a genocide, but what is James Fish like? What are the fucking parameters of this guy's worldview? Like, I think personally, I think he's just a fucking grifter for the most part. Like all of these right wing shitheads that try to make a name for themselves in politics are. You know, doesn't have any actual fundamental beliefs and is just using the populist language of the time to boost themselves. But yeah.
We are talking about the Holocaust in 2026, to tell you the truth. I don't think we should crack down on legitimate speech. I think we should absolutely condemn any form of religious hatred, including against Jews. But there always has to be.
So isn't that a good thing then, that we talk about the Holocaust? If we want to ensure that these things don't happen again, and we want to keep, religious.
But when we
hatred.
talk about the Holocaust in the context of having a debate about Israel or Benjamin Netanyahu or AIPAC, why would that be relevant?
I think it's relevant because it's all within the context of Israel defending itself, right? And
Guy's so stupid. Anyway.
Jewish people defending themselves.
Yeah, they're defending themselves from fucking what, dude? Children? Children with rocks that they ethnically cleansed from their village? Oh no, how scary.
Which is what they claim the war is about.
And those children with rocks grew up to be, resistance fighters. But, it's...
Right, is about defense, and it's about offense for defense, and it's about ensuring that there isn't another Holocaust and that they don't get wiped out again.
Yeah, fucking... Goddamn, tying Israel to the fucking Holocaust like this makes the conversation so messy. Because then every libtard who's, I don't know, Israel's defending itself from terrorists. As if, the Middle East is just some kind of natural breeding ground for terrorism. Rather than U.S. imperialism and Israeli settler colonialism instigating violent responses to those conquests. The Middle East, yeah. I don't know. How are you, like, a 40-year-old man making a fool of yourself like this, It's just embarrassing.
Again, right? Or almost wiped out.
So this war doesn't appear that is in fact the case when upwards of 80,000 civilians rather, have been killed at the hands of the Israeli government in Gaza. We have to have a real conversation about what is happening in the Middle East. There's this often question, does Israel have a right to exist? No country has a right to exist. People,
including the U.S.,
are endowed with the right to exist through self-defense, through self-determination. I don't believe that the Israeli government...
But I don't know. I wonder what this guy would say in response to, does the U.S. have a right to exist? Because he knows his audience are a bunch of hyper-nationalist idiots that, if questioned on the whitewashed history narratives that most Americans are taught, will reject him if he actually goes that, America was founded on genocide and slavery. And that legacy continues to this day. Like, if he says that, his campaign is over, right? So, but I guess he can say that about Israel because he's cultivated a herd of morons to follow him.
Government has a permanent right to exist regardless of electoral outcomes, geopolitical considerations, the will of the people. But Jewish people anywhere in the world, but especially in the United States of America, absolutely have a right to exist.
This talking point about Israel's right to exist and self-determination has become one of the most hotly debated issues when it comes to Israel and Jews as a people. The key term here is Zionism, which refers to a movement and belief that Jewish people have the right to self-determination and a state of their own. It serves as the foundation of Israel as a country after the Holocaust. But people I spoke with across the country on the left and the right use that term Zionist in a sort of automatically derogatory way.
Yes, because Zionism is fascism. These are Jewish fascists. And honestly, like, you move over to Israel to come live in this, whatever the fuck this is. I guess this is a new kibbutz or settlement in the West Bank. That's being set up. Like, yeah. Kind of dumb. Doesn't look great to me. Looks like it kind of sucks. Why would you even want to live that lifestyle? Anyway.
They define Zionism not as Jews' rights to self-determination, to
barefoot kid,
existence and safety, but instead equate Zionism with Israel's expansion into the West Bank and Gaza. Young people at right-wing political events and left-wing protests alike told me they're not anti-Jewish, but they are anti-Zionist. One of the most popular and controversial anti-Zionists is the leftist political commentator Hassan Piker.
So don't tell me that when you're
anyway,
peacefully trying to coexist with Israel, they let you peacefully coexist. Because what is going on in the West Bank is nothing but violence.
Piker has amassed more than 6 million followers across his social platforms with his blunt and aggressive reactions to right-wing politics, and particularly against Israel's current leadership. And he's recently entered the political battlefield, stumping for progressive politicians like New York City Mayor Zoran Mandani, Pennsylvania Congresswoman Summer Lee, and U.S. Senate candidate for Michigan Abdul El-Sayed.
You got this scary music playing in the background. As if this is some kind of cynical, insidious plan he's deploying. And as if, like, people like Abdul El-Sayed, Summer Lee, and Zoran Mamdani, well, I mean, I guess if he went and... Well, at least people, like, when a guy like Abdul El-Sayed, who's running for Senate, comes and talks to him, that's more so legitimizing Hassan as a serious person, and also giving Abdul, the human resources that Hassan's community can provide, like funds and volunteers. But, I guess because this is a hit piece more so on Hassan for the part, from my understanding. Guy's not going to talk about that.
He's also made speeches on college campuses like Yale.
Donald Trump let the Israelis drag the U.S. into this newest war with Iran after 3 years of bipartisan support for the genocide that Israel was committing on a different front of Israel's multiple ongoing wars of aggression.
Watching this debate live was so cringe, and like all this or whatever they do that, and then they stomp, I think, right? This just means somebody doesn't like what he's saying, and there's some kind of ultra Zionist up there, like his heart out. It's so funny. It's funny and annoying at the same time. You know?
Zionism is the ethno-religious supremacist ideology that is exterminationist in principle, born out of the wrong assessment that this was a land without people for a people without land. It required the extermination of the indigenous population, and that's precisely what has happened since its inception. And its final iteration of that has been the Gaza genocide that we watched unfold.
Would you acknowledge that that's a very different definition to what many...
Yeah, it is, because why would people support it if they were told what it actually is in America, If I was told that's what Zionism is when I was a kid, I would have never identified as a Zionist. And that's the truth about what Zionism is, by the way, for the record. But me, growing up in a Reformed Zionist synagogue, I was just told, Zionism's like, we can have a homeland, and it's an egalitarian project, and they're just a bunch of like scary terrorist guys that kind of want to kill Jews, I guess. Like, I didn't even know what a Palestinian was until I was in college. That's kind of, I don't know. I guess if you're not dedicated to the Hebrew school brainwashing education, that's what you learn for the most part. I didn't stick with, I got bar mitzvahed, but I didn't keep taking Hebrew school classes. I suppose maybe they teach like Hebrew school students the counter narratives. Yeah, in some synagogues or most synagogues, like the Hasbara narratives that be from Ken Mazig or John Aziz or Yvonne Levy, any number of those guys, or to ADL. But yeah, I wasn't hit with that beam too hard, so I guess it was easier for me to let go of the idea that Israel was cool when I learned about it,
Jews would consider Zionism.
Of course, people that want to support Israel are going to look at that and say, well, Zionism to me means something entirely different. Zionism
but maybe
to me...
it just does. Maybe it just does mean something.
Well, maybe it... Hope.
Yeah, but right? At the end of the day, it's still...
No, it doesn't. I mean, whatever. He's in the hot chair right now, and this fucking... Maybe it just does mean something different than what it actually has produced. Maybe Nazism just means Germans' right to self-determination in their homeland. Like, that's the conversation this guy wants to have. I mean, the equivalent of it, at least.
Still this ideology that is responsible for not only the inception of the Israeli state, but its current version.
When Hassan Piker proudly says he's an anti-Zionist, anti-Zionism is a form of...
Here's Jonathan Greenblatt in his villain lair. I wonder if I'm one of these dots. I could be. What is this blue dot in Maine? I started a chapter of JVP up at my college campus in the Orono flagship campus of the University of Maine. I see a Cuda enhance. Hold on. Can I get a better look at
anti-Semitism? It's the idea that Jewish people...
What is the blue? White supremacist events. Okay. Well, there is a Nazi camp outside of Bangor. or up in Maine, or that closed down a year or so ago. So I guess that's not me. What do the green dots represent, dude? Like, can we figure this out? Computer enhance. Yeah. The red dots are terrorist plots and attack. Or red dots are extremist murders. White dots are terrorists. The green dots are, oh, anti-Zionist. If you can read that, I'm pretty sure right here it says anti-Zionist. If you zoom in, I think I'm zoomed the max in here. Anyway, that's cool. So virtually everything that he's tracking is just anti-Zionist stuff that he wouldn't even classify as white supremacist or extremist murders or terror. Like, great. I'm glad they're spending most of their time tracking anti-Zionist activity, seemingly, according to the map here.
People, unlike Muslims, unlike Christians, unlike all the people in the world, don't have a right to...
It's a really good use of a civil rights organization to track an anti-fascist movement and, you know, claim it's harmful to Jews somehow.
To a state of their own. That's what it means.
Jonathan Greenblatt is the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League. The nonprofit was founded in 1913, and its mission is to combat anti-Semitism and broader discrimination around the world. Today, the ADL uses technology to...
Oh, anti-Semitic incidents. Which, you know, I'm pretty sure according to the ADL data, fuck me, now I gotta edit that part out. But anyway, according to the ADL data, you know, a pro-Palestine protest is an anti-Semitic incident, so...
track and monitor increasing anti-Semitic rhetoric on social media and hate speech and violence against Jews across the globe. I've spent a lot of time talking to young people, and their idea of Zionism, it's almost...
It's so stupid, too, because... like, if you're an American with a brain cell, you already know, like, the only actual anti-Semitism is coming primarily from white supremacist groups. White supremacists. So, if you actually look at the data, if you want to analyze this, whatever, this data with, you know, a fair bit of accuracy, like, only look at the blue dots, pretty much, for the most part. I don't know. No, I guess that's not necessarily true. The white supremacist event. Regardless, like, where were we?
You talk to sort of young people on the left and on the right now. Uses...
So I guess the blue dots are only when, like, Patriot Front gets together and goes camping. The ADL is tracking that. Or when the Proud Boys get together and, you know, rub hot oil on each other's bodies and do gay sex. Jonathan Greenblatt's tracking that too. The Proud Boy orgies.
Technology to track and monitor increasing anti-Semitic rhetoric on social media and hate speech and violence against Jews across the globe. I've spent a lot of time talking to young people, and their idea of Zionism, it's almost like if you talk to sort of young people on the left and on the right now, they see this word Zionism and they see not just sort of self-determination, but they've come to understand Zionism as expansionism.
So I get that we have to try to understand the next generation where they're coming from. At the same time, there are absolutes. They can look at things in different ways, but Zionism is the right of Jewish people to self-determination in their ancestral homeland. That's it. That's all it is.
Nope. Where's my button? No, it's not. Zionism is settler colonialism, ethnic cleansing, Jewish supremacy in Israel, imperialism. Or I guess if you just want to ignore the actual on-the-ground effects of it and make up some other fucking fantasy narrative about what Zionism's done, we can go with that definition too.
So you can be upset with Prime Minister Netanyahu and some of his policies, but he didn't invent Zionism any more than you could be upset with President Trump and his policies. He didn't invent kind of America or patriotism. Piker and others exploit the broad misunderstanding of what that word means, and they promote misunderstanding by
They exploit
using it as some kind of slur or trying to suggest it means something that it doesn't.
Yeah, sure, bud.
My Zionism, and I am an unapologetic Zionist, I believe Israel has the right to exist.
The ADL has monitored anti-Semitism from the...
What is communism winning at? Everything, dude.
The left and the right, but Greenblatt says they have seen increasing use of anti-Semitic rhetoric from the left over the conflicts in the Middle East. Piker has been a specific concern for the ADL. On their website, you can find a roughly 10-page research analysis.
Well, it just won some elections in Colorado, New York. You know? Pennsylvania. So there's that. Right, New Jersey too. Adam Homowy. So, you know, even if those people haven't done the reading or identify as one, you know, that's the conclusion of their worldview, basically. Regardless
Of moments that they say Piker has used blatant anti-Semitic rhetoric.
You f***ing baying pig! You f***ing bloodthirsty, violent pig dog!
Pig dog is identified as an anti-Semitic insult, often used in...
It's not. It's a term communists deploy. Capitalist pig dog. America is run by a capitalist pig dog. You know?
Conjunction with other anti-Jewish rhetoric, such as references to bloodthirsty, or in German, Schweinejuden, Jewish pigs. Do you regret any...
Fucking idiot. Made that shit up post hoc. Like, at least get Jonathan Greenblatt to say that, so that, you know, whatever idiot still believes the ADL can, you know, pretend there's some legitimacy to this claim. Yeah.
Any of the things that you've said?
Reading your comment, yes. Also, have you seen China? What's going on over there?
I mean...
Or North Korea? Anyway.
I've spoken for 21,000 hours.
Yeah, a country led by a dictatorship of the proletariat. The socialist transitional state.
On contentious subjects from a perspective that most Americans are not privy to. So I'm sure that there are things that I've said in heated moments because it's a very contentious environment. It's a medium that requires interaction.
If they serve in the military and then they get their fucking untrained, inbred asses shipped into southern Lebanon, again, very funny.
When I'm calling like
it would be
a settler or something inbred, it's not different than me calling a neo-Nazi inbred. Is it nice? No. Is it kind? Absolutely not. It's vulgar, for sure. I understand that, but it's not saying like all Jews are inbred or anything like that. That's
Have you read Grover Furr? How that period of de-Stalinization potentially set the USSR on the path of, falling, causing the Sino-Soviet split. Anyway,
that's not what I meant. That's not what I mean at all.
That conversation is not the things I want to talk about, considering I want to speak to Americans and not ultras or, European anti-communists.
You see how Piker is essentially saying the same thing that James Fishback told me? When he chooses to use a word like dog or inbred to define a specific racial group, Jews, he says it's just colorful language, like Fishback calling cafeteria food goyslop. It's just crude language that gets taken as anti-Semitic.
I think defending being vulgar is a silly exercise. It's like trying to explain a joke. It's never going to be funny. It's already over. I'm telling you sincerely what I believe. I'm not precious with my language is what I'm saying.
But critics like Greenblatt don't buy that.
I mean, I'm talking about this anti-Zionism. How it relates to, we can talk about Zionism and how it relates to the global system of capital and American hegemony. Which, look at how we can talk about how that American hegemony has affected the development of countries in the third world. Like, maybe compare India after it gained its independence and how it's developed to China after it threw out the Japanese and Americans and British. And how China's developed. It's all interconnected.
Hassan can say whatever he wants. We bring the receipts. So I'm not going to judge him on what he says to you in a conversation. I'm going to judge him on the basis of what he says to his audience day after day after day. Mm-hmm. When you call Orthodox Jews inbred, mm-hmm. when you describe the Jewish state as evil, as Hamas, mm-hmm. a terror organization committed to slaughtering Jewish people anywhere in the world, it says it in their charter.
Yeah.
Those are their words.
Greenblatt and others have called out Piker's support for Hamas, the Palestinian militant group responsible for the October 7th.
Yeah, we should actually, now that Hamas isn't even a thing, they handed over, I guess they're still armed, right? They only have their militant faction and they don't maintain governance operations over Gaza anymore. They handed that to the Committee of Technocrats. I mean, it's not bad to support Hamas. They're a resistance organization. It's only illegal to materially support them in the US and verbally support them in the UK and other European countries, but it's a ridiculous conversation.
Attacks in Israel. He's described the group as the lesser evil in the ongoing conflict. Hamas's original 1988 founding charter explicitly called for the destruction of Israel and the killing of Jewish people worldwide.
Bullshit. Yeah, they had anti-Semitic language in their charter when they were Islamic charity. Wow. Devastating things for Hamas here.
An updated version of the charter in 2017 removed references to the destruction of Israel, instead declaring to confront what they call the Zionist project and upheld armed resistance. You said that you supported Hamas 1,000 times over
Hamas
Israel.
is 1,000 times better than Israel.
Yeah.
The numbers probably have increased now that Israel is doing what it's...
Let me check my button for that. God damn it. Well, I'm not logged in. Whatever.
Doing to Gaza in Lebanon as well.
Board.
But aren't you just justifying violence with...
Well, it's a fascist alliance, you know. It's because they both hate like the Hindutvas and the and Zionists. Both share a common cause in, you know, trying to ethnically cleanse Muslims from the land. You know, that's why. And there's also a lot of Indians who, you know, make money off of posting fascist slop on social media that gets algo boosted by people like Elon Musk and, you know, other... I don't see it as much on Instagram, but that's a thing too. Because fascist slop gets algo boosted on X. You know, if you're making American dollars off of a X account in India, that goes a long way too. Yeah.
With more violence, though? I mean, like, that's what it sounds like. I mean, if ultimately the goal is peace and a diplomatic solution to this, then doesn't it set back that cause by expressing in very stark terms support for a group that is engaged currently in acts of terrorism?
They're not currently engaged in acts of terrorism. They haven't been engaged in acts of terrorism since October 7th. Like, these people will hate you for saying it, but yeah, Hamas fighting back against the IDF post October 7th. Completely justifiable, completely righteous. You know, they're fighting militant combatants. And also, half the people that were killed on October 7th were militants. So, there's that, too. Is this seriously where the conversation is for, like, most normal people in the US? For, like, most people over the age of 35 who aren't chronically on social media, you know?
I think Israel is doing acts of terrorism. I think America
But you
is
can
doing
be
acts of
against
terrorism.
both, can't you? I mean, you can be...
Well, of course, I am, right? And I have said that...
Is this guy an operator, dude? Like, he pivoted that question so quickly. Like, you know, in this guy's worldview, America is the righteous, is right. State violence is okay. Non-state actors' violence is bad. Terrorism. But then you hear Hassan say, America's committing acts of violence, acts of terrorism. You're like, you don't even flinch, and you're like, okay, let's move on. Kind of suspicious if this guy's trying to be sincere, you know?
Like
Or
any
I guess
kind
they
of
cut it
targeting of civilians is a war crime. It's heinous. It's completely unacceptable. It's not an endorsement necessarily of
well, Indians can make money off of spreading fascist slop on social media. Zionist slop on social media. It's the algorithm rewards it, and you can get paid for doing it. It's like a bot farm, basically. People in China even do like AI slop farms too to make some extra cash, you know, where they post AI slop on Western social media for some extra bucks. Like, I met a guy who was doing that in China.
Militant resistance
sounds like an endorsement.
It's not an endorsement of militant resistance.
Well, let's be clear about
but it's a recognition. But it's a recognition of their desperation.
I think you could ask a lot of people who are kind of spouting anti-Zionism,
Yeah.
like, does Israel have a right to exist? And most of them would say, well, sure, we're okay with Israel as it is. We're just not okay with certain things that the Israeli government is doing.
That is totally legitimate. Like for someone to say, like, I'm okay with America, I just don't agree with what President Trump is doing.
Right.
Or I was okay with America, I didn't agree with what President Biden was doing.
Right.
That's normal.
Mm-hmm.
But when there are people who say that the country is more evil than the terrorists who blow up buses and try to intentionally kill civilians, like something's wrong with that. I think.
Damn. Wow, you're telling me the people who blow up buses are more evil than the people who blow up entire blocks, entire cities? Filled mostly with children because the population of Gaza is, what, like 50%, 60% under the age of 18? Prior to October 7th, at least. Yeah, fuck Jonathan Greenblatt, fucking.
I think that's kind of a warped set of values. I really.
And it comes from this guy's fascist worldview. Western. I mean, he's good at least at explaining it in a liberal way, but he does not value the lives of Arab people, especially the Palestinians, at all. That's the only way you can sincerely come to this conclusion.
We do.
It's clear that the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East are changing the way that Americans view Israel's government and America's decades-long relationship with Israel. But it's also...
Oh yeah, Netanyahu was bragging because, of course, they've been running, Jeffrey Epstein's been running right-wing influence schemes with Steve Bannon for over a decade now, online, It's good for Israel if more Americans are stupid and don't understand politics at all and just operate off of racial right-wing animus. Good for Steve Bannon's cause to sedate the American population with fascist fascist policies, keep the American population from understanding that there's a ruling class that kind of controls the institutions we all pretend are democratic here, And, Steve Bannon's goals was to keep America the global hegemon for the next 100 years. So those things align. To do that, you got to do propaganda operations. Otherwise, people will recognize the morality of what's going on and potentially revolt. Especially if material conditions keep worsening in the US. But right now, most people can just fucking distract themselves because TVs are cheap as fuck, and even if they're barely making enough to afford grocery, food, and medicine, like groceries and medicine, they're making enough to pay rent and maybe get a burger after work and watch a TV show, play video games. That's where a lot of the American working class is at. sad to say. It's just circuses and some bread, you know?
Also very clear that anti-Semitism is reaching extremely dangerous levels, evident by the real-world violence against Jews.
We've been dealing with anti-Semitism since 1913.
Oh yeah, that was like the only actual non-anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist terrorist attack that's even happened in the U.S. as far as I'm aware. This DC shooting. But we're gonna pretend like, Elias Rodriguez, I guess, was a, Hassan inspired Elias Rodriguez to go do that, even though, from my understanding, it was clearly he was mentally ill in like some ultra left Discord server, and he was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go do this." That's how that happened, kind of.
But we've been systematically tracking it for almost 50 years. And 2025 was one of the most violent periods we've seen in memory. Over 200 acts of...
Oh, yeah. Zionism is a dying movement now, for sure. And in the next 10 years, it'll be kaput. Because Israel's lost everybody under 40 for the most part. Like, you're not cool if you fuck with Israel and you're under 40, People, especially if you travel abroad and have international friends, like Israel is the number one punching bag for jokes abroad, at least in my experience. People making jokes about, like, international teachers making jokes about calling up Netanyahu to tell them there's Hamas tunnels under the school they work at. Something. That's what's happening in, like, international circles, at least.
Violence committed against Jewish people in 2025 out of a total of 6,200 some odd anti-Semitic incidents. Synagogues, schools, offices like this one, literally, they're fortified like citadels with bulletproof glass and security guards and alarm systems. But the truth is, every Jewish establishment, every place where Jewish people walk or where they shop or where they socialize, you can't live behind, barbed wire and walls, which is why ultimately anti-Semitism is everyone's problem.
Whether you're on the left or the right, anti-Semitism is indeed everyone's problem. And that's true even for Jews who are somewhere in the middle, supporters of Israel who are outwardly opposed to Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government.
Either Israel is always right and you can't criticize it, or Israel's always wrong and it's the worst country in the world. And
yeah, and this guy is caught in between, where he's like, I want to defend. J Street is the liberal Zionist organization, alternative to AIPAC. It's I don't even, like, who's a prominent figure? Like, J Street's, I feel like it's so irrelevant in the national conversation, but maybe in the Jewish community it's relevant because, a lot of Jews are, kind of coming around in organized Jewish spaces, coming around to the idea that, hey, maybe we shouldn't be full-throatedly supporting Israel. Seems like they're doing a lot of bad stuff. And that's what J Street is for. People who want to hold on to that idea of a egalitarian Israel. And I'm pretty sure the rest of this is just boring stuff, so whatever.
And the
Lay it on
truth
double speed.
lies somewhere in the middle. And so does the majority of the largest group of American Jews, and their opinions lie in the middle. Our organization is here to advocate for that, to try to change American policy and also change the public.
Yeah, a lot of people are undereducated on Israel. That's why their opinions lie in the middle. Because most Americans think the only media you can really trust is mainstream. Like there's just not a lot of resources that break through the algorithm that actually show people where to go read reliable sources about this stuff. And the Jewish youth, I think, you have in the youth among the Jewish community, it's super polarized. Like you have zealots, and then you have like full front, like Judeo-Bolshevik, anti-Zionist style people like myself. That's kind of, but the Kahanists are a small minority.
The conversation,
in America,
to have space to have that difficult conversation.
J Street is a liberal Zionist advocacy lobby group based in Washington, D.C. The group describes its
I don't know what you were talking about. You have to go to retirement homes for the invalid to find people who trust legacy media. Yeah, that's true. Well, I think a lot of people just don't even think about politics, and when they try to learn about it, like the only sources they know to go to are legacy media. They're like, I guess I'll just read whatever this is and hope that this is true. I think that's where most Americans are at when they try thinking about politics.
itself as the political home and voice for pro-Israel, pro-peace, pro-democracy Americans. J Street opposes the current Israeli government and its policies, but it also doesn't support the more extreme opinions of far-left commentators like Piker either.
I happen to be what's called a liberal Zionist. I believe that in the founding of the State of Israel, there were certain promises made and certain commitments made about the type of state it was going to be, that it would provide equality for all, regardless of their race and their religion and their gender, that it would be a light unto the nations, that it would pursue the rule of law and equality under the law. And that, to me, is my Zionism. But the debate over what Zionism is has been going on for 130 years.
Yeah, and that's not how Israel started or what it's become, so maybe drop the cope.
Within the Jewish community, and this Netanyahu, Ben Gvir, Smotrich right-wing vision of Zionism is not what I mean when I say I believe in Zionism.
I'm curious as to whether you think the majority of the conversation that's going on about the relationship between America and Israel is of that format at the moment, or is it being dominated by more sort of shrill or louder voices? A very difficult part of what you do must be attempting to counteract the Nick Fuenteses of the world. Do you think that they have a lot of influence in how people think about Israel?
Well, I think you can look at the polling and you can see the influence. The more that your 30 seconds of a soundbite can get just clipped and sent around, the more you're going to have an influence these days. This is not limited just to the anti-Semitism question or the Israel question, but folks on the right and folks on the left using the most outrageous possible language and having no desire to have an hour-long conversation that gets into nuance and areas of gray and shades of gray.
I sat down with James Fishback and talked with him for an hour.
Yeah, they tune out. I think most Americans are just tuned out. And that's anyway.
And I said, look, you say you want to have this conversation about Israeli influence in American politics, but then you go and you use terms like goy slop, which is a specific anti-Semitic dog whistle, and you know exactly what you're doing. Obviously, the criticism and the virulent language that somebody like Hassan Piker uses, I would argue, is certainly not helpful.
But I think a lot of people, kind-hearted people who, understand politics as a serious matter are tuning back in now that voices like Hassan and DSA are getting featured in like the mainstream conversation. They're like, oh wait, maybe I should go learn about stuff from these guys, you know? I don't know. That's my hope anyway. At least DSA membership's been given a boost because of Zoran and their slate wins. Why he's funny. I mean, for the most part, he's one of the only serious like political commentators on the left that actually cares about winning power.
And I pressed him on that and I pushed him on that and I said, every time you say
Yeah, it might go over your head. I don't know.
I'm 1,000 times more in support of Hamas than I am of Israel. Yes, it gets views, but it also sort of cheapens this conversation and it takes the focus away from the more reasoned debate. Both of those.
But I also maybe it's not for you because I have the same kind of politics brain rot he does. Where I listen to people have these kinds of conversations and I find it more funny than stand up, More entertaining than like an actually good comedian like Bill Burr, I find idiot contests to be the best,
Those sides are not helping when it comes to having this conversation. I think that's fair to say, right?
We spend a lot more time, who's more dangerous, Nick Fuentes or Hassan Piker, and which words matter more or less.
Is this guy seriously weighing those two options? Like, what the fuck? Aren't you supposed to be a liberal? You're like weighing Hassan Piker, but Holocaust denying neo-Nazi. Yeah, bro. I actually am watching Dog Electrocute. My favorite part of. Can't find the button. I just shocked my dog,
And that's interesting, but I think from a human point of view, how are we going to make less people die over the course of the years and decades ahead? J Street and I will spend more of our time trying to talk through, well, what should American policy be? How do we get the Israeli government and the governments of the Arab countries and the leadership of the Palestinian Authority, how do we get them to begin building on a different path towards actually ending this conflict so we stop having the people on the right and the left going at this way? And so many of us in this middle space are trying to show to young people that there are voices on the other side and try to elicit a little bit of empathy to try to match the anger and use that empathy to say, okay, there's a human being on the other side of this. It's not some horrible monster.
Yeah, there's Zio-Nazis, and then there are, everybody trying to resist against that kind of influence. Anyway.
Figment of your imagination. It's a human being with a family, with kids, and a desire to raise their kids in peace, and that's who's on the other side of all of this.
Ben-Ami makes an important point about the dangers of clippable moments overtaking real, nuanced discussion on ending the conflicts in the Middle East. But you could also argue that the damage is already being done here in America. Politicians like Fishback, and even some on the left who've used anti-Semitic talking points like defeat
Maureen Galindo. What a kook. She is the most Texas candidate ever, Like, she perfectly represents the politics of Texas right now. Or, like, the average political opinion in Texas.
Defeated Democratic congressional candidate Maureen Galindo are making headlines and drawing crowds with their vulgar, punchy lines. And supporters, like the Groypers, who agree with Fishback's extreme rhetoric about Jewish people, are going to the polls and casting their votes. So what can be done? Well, for our part, with this series, we hope to cut through the vulgar and short clips with real conversations. And we also tried to have another real discussion with two of our subjects to hopefully build some kind of new understanding. I asked Hassan Piker and Jonathan Greenblatt on camera if they would sit down for a conversation with each other, with me moderating. Piker said yes immediately. Wild idea. If we could broker it, would you sit down with him?
With Jonathan Greenblatt?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to.
Okay.
I would love to have a conversation with Jonathan Greenblatt.
Me too. I would, like, if I could get the name, give myself the profile to get in front of Jonathan Greenblatt to talk to him, and like any number of these actually influential Zionists, like that would be the dream, you know? To actually have a conversation with them about what Zionism is, instead of this like baby talk about what they fantasize it as. You know?
I'll pose the same question to him. Greenblatt was a bit more cautious. We've talked a lot about Hassan Piker here. He claims he's tried to sit down with you guys and tried to talk to you.
When
you
was
said
that?
earlier, I don't know. He's claimed, that's his claim to you. Would you sit down with him? Would you sit down with him and me in a room and have a conversation?
Look, I'll sit down and talk to anyone. My only red line is if you dehumanize others.
Mm-hmm. Has he crossed that line?
Well, yeah, and saying that, Zionists, the things said about Zionists, I think.
Being a Zionist dehumanizes yourself. Okay? It's fascism. How would I smuggle in what? I wouldn't smuggle anything in. My weapon's my voice.
Absolutely cross the line and create the space where it seems
as a white Jewish American dude who's maybe I'm too maybe I perceive myself too highly, but I feel like I could handle a public conversation with these people, or debate, especially with a guy like Greenblatt. He would make it so easy because his worldview is just fundamentally stupid.
Legitimate to murder Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you would acknowledge the legitimacy of Zionism, the Zionists have the same right as everyone else, even people whose views we don't like. That would be an important step forward.
The offer still stands.
I hope that happens. That would be... I'm tuning into that live. That'd be a day I pull out the drinks for,
China just implemented...
It's the bat time, Anyway. China's, there's this new CIA propaganda push where they're like now posting the Dalai Lama on Time magazine as if he's not like a pedophile and friend of Jeffrey Epstein. As if like, Mao didn't already free Tibet. This insane... Where... Am I wrong, or did the... His last stand. Say, suck my tongue instead. Anyway.
its new ethnic unity law. Beijing sees it...
They waited until after he was outed as a CIA, apparently. Yeah, it's weird. Because he was in the Epstein files, and we have those files. Like, yeah. And they're also trying to revive the Uyghur genocide narrative for some reason, even though the free education camps are closed. Like, I saw some new articles that were just, rehashing the same stuff that was coming out from 2019 to like 2021. So that's cool too. It's weird.
It as a path toward further development. Western critics call it a crackdown on minority cultures. We'll discuss this and more on today's China Report.
I'm hungry. Kill me. I'm hungry. I'll be right back.
Welcome to the China Report. I'm your host, Amanda Yee. These are this week's headlines.
More concerned they stopped fear-mongering so heavily about AI might imply they got control Of China? I don't think so. China has control of the AI industry, or America does? I mean, America has always had control of the AI industry, or at least like the open AI and all those. Oh yeah, well, I mean, Zionist spooks, yeah, of course. They're using the Gaza genocide to train these AI models, you know. It's profitable for these AI companies to do that. And these fucking AI billionaires don't give a shit, you know.
Headlines. China has dispatched its first batch of emergency aid to earthquake-stricken Venezuela. 80 tons of relief aid arrived on Monday morning in Caracas, including generators, water purification units, and solar-powered lighting systems, alongside hundreds of disinfection machines and thousands of tents and blankets. This massive supply drop comes in addition to the $14.7 million in emergency assistance, which Beijing has pledged. China has also supplied satellite imagery of the disaster zone to assist Venezuelan authorities in assessing damage and to better coordinate rescue and relief efforts. As of July 8th, the confirmed death toll in Venezuela from the twin earthquakes is around 3,535, with an additional 16,740 people injured. Alibaba has officially banned its employees from using Anthropic's Claude code after security researchers discovered hidden code designed to secretly identify Chinese users. The tracking system, which operated silently since April, used steganography to alter date formats and Unicode characters in data sent back to Anthropic servers whenever a user's timecode or proxy indicated they were in China. While Anthropic claimed the mechanism was merely an experiment to prevent account abuse and protect its technology from industrial-scale distillation, Alibaba labeled the tool a high-risk software threat and ordered staff to transition to its own internal AI assistant. The controversy follows Anthropic's decision to send a letter to the U.S. Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, accusing Alibaba of attempting to steal its AI capabilities through massive distillation attacks. Because Claude Code requires deep access to a developer's local file system, cybersecurity experts warn that Anthropic's hidden data tracking methods cross a critical line, raising intense cross-border compliance and security concerns. China just dropped a 5-year blueprint to radically overhaul life for its 85 million disabled citizens. The government aims to guarantee that 95% of its disabled population has medical insurance, ensure that 97% of school-age disabled children receive compulsory education, raise basic rehabilitation service coverage, and create 1 million new jobs. To pull this off, China's State Council is unleashing everything from AI and brain-computer interfaces to 100 new women's workshops and barrier-free upgrades at hospitals, banks,